All right, so we've learned basic addition and subtraction and multiplication and division using simple math formulas, but Excel can do much more mathematical functions than we like to give it credit for. So we are going to be looking at these numbers. Imagine you had 6 tests and these are your scores for all of your tests. And you want to find your maximum score, your minimum score, and then the average of all of your tests. So that, if you remember back to math, an average is where you would add up all of the scores and then divide it by 6 because that's how many tests there were, and it gives you your average score for all of the tests that you've taken. So these all require formulas or functions. And so we are going to be looking at functions and selecting ranges. We have been selecting cells. Instead, now we're going to be using our mouse to select ranges. And we're going to be finding the maximum values, the minimum values, and the averages of all of these test scores. So once again, I'm going to start in the cell that I want to have an answer for. I'm looking at maximum right now. Come up to my formula bar, and I'm going to come over here to this editing box. Notice I'm still on my home ribbon, and I'm going to come to this auto sum, and I'm going to use this drop down, and I'm going to say I want max, which is the maximum value. There we go. And it gives me like this nice little blue box, and it says the range of numbers from cell H19 through cell H25. But our numbers end in cell H24. So we have several options that we can do. You can see at the back of this cursor we have the blinking H25. We can edit it here. Let's go back up and we can edit it up here in the formula bar. So it says H24, and now you can see these are only the numbers that are represented. Or let's go back into our AutoSum Max. And I can click the backspace key. And right now there are no cells in between these parentheses, but I have the blinking cursor there. See, blink, blink, blink. I can come up here, click on the first cell, and then drag that zebra line move in blue box to represent H19 through H24. So that is selecting the range of numbers. When I'm done, I hit enter, which tells me the score I had the best result on was this 100 score. Now it's easy to go through here and say 84 is less than 90 but more than 75 and more than 67 but less than 98 and 100 is perfect, so that's 1. So you could type in the number 100. But imagine that we had tests for all of your K-12 and college history all in one line. It's going to be very difficult to find the highest score. So that's why we would use these functions and have Excel search the data instead of our eyes going crossed looking at numbers on a spreadsheet. We're going to do the exact same thing for our minimum. What was our lowest score? So again, I'm in the cell where I want the answer to be. I come up to the auto sum and go to min. And it's automatically going to pick up the cell in front of it. We don't want the minimum to be 100. That's not true. So instead, we are going to highlight and drag down the cells with the data that we needed to represent. H19 through H24, represented here. And see this little colon right here? That means all of the numbers in between. So it's looking at H19, H20, H21, H22, H23, H24. So all of the numbers are there and represented, and then I hit enter, and we can see that my lowest score was a 67. I must not have studied for that test. And now we're going to look at the average. I'm already in my average box. It's highlighted by this green. I come up into the auto sum, and I come to average. It's going to try to find the average of the minimum and the maximum, but that's not what I want. I want the average of my test scores. So again, I select cell H19, and I'm just going to drag down to H24 and then hit enter. So in looking at all of my scores, I see now that my average score on all of these tests is an 85.6666666667. So let's reduce this decimal points to just 2. Up here, under the decrease decimal, I can just click on this every time I want that decimal to decrease, and there is my number, 85.67. So that's how we use formulas and functions and data ranges to find the information that we need. And we're going to continue on using some of these things in our sheet complete. So I'm going to go ahead and switch worksheets. So here we have trunk or treat at Aspen Creek Sales, and these are the concessions that they have. So we have Ryan's Ice Cream, Susan's Fudge, Bert's Tacos, Brenda's Candy, Teresa's Fruit, and then we've got food and drinks at each of these vendors. We're going to be looking at the total sales. We're going to be looking at them both as all of the food sales, all of the drink sales, but then we're also looking at Ryan Brown's ice cream sales. So how many things did Ryan sell at the trunk or treat? So our total sales, we're going to start in this cell, and we're going to come up to our formula bar, and there's 2 ways that we can do this. We're going to say equals, and we can do our basic addition right here. So I selected the cell B4 plus C4 and hit enter. I'm going to insert a couple of columns here because I want you guys to see various ways that we can do this. So there we go. So we know the answer is 923. In this cell, I'm going to show you that we can use the auto sum format and highlight the information that we want. We still get the same number. So this is auto sum, and then here is where we can actually type in the formula, equals sum parentheses, highlight the information, end parentheses, and notice how they are all the exact same. So there's multiple ways that you can add information in Excel. I would like you to play with all 3 of these. So this is using the cell reference. Here is using the auto sum feature, and then this is by typing in the formula yourself. Okay. One of the nicest things about Excel is once you have a formula and it's done and it's complete and it's accurate, I can take what is called the fill handle and drag that information down. So I don't have to find it again. I don't have to enter that formula in again. The fill handle, as you know, is right down here in this little green box in Office 2013. If you're using Office 2010, this box isn't green, it's black, but you still have a little black box there. And as soon as I hover over it, it turns into a black plus sign. Once I have that black plus sign, I'm going to click my left mouse button and I'm just going to drag it down. And now I have added up Susan's, Bert's, Brenda's, and Teresa's total sales. I'm going to practice that again over here because I want you guys to practice this. And I want you to see that the answers are the exact same. No matter what I'm doing, that means I know this formula is correct both times. So that is just by dragging these down. All right, we also need the totals here for all of the food purchases, all of the drink purchases, and all of the total sales. Okay, so I'm going to come in and I'm going to go ahead and do an auto sum for this. It tells me the cells that it's going to use. Those are all the right cells. I hit enter and I'm done. So we've learned that we can drag that autofill down, but we can also drag it horizontally across the row. So I'm going to take that fill handle. Notice I've got my black plus sign. I've left clicked on the mouse button and I'm holding it down, and I'm going to drag it over here. And now I have all of my cells done. I only had to enter the formula in once. That's fantastic for me. All right, I'm going to go ahead and delete these because I don't want them to be confusing. Okay, so we had our total sales, which was a sum or an addition problem, and now we need to have a subtraction. What was the difference? How many more food items did they sell than drink items? Okay, so I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go ahead and do my auto sum. I'm going to tell it what it's the data that I want it to represent, food and drinks. And then up here you can see that it is saying B4 through C4. But it is not telling it that I want this to be a subtraction problem. So if I'm using AutoSum, I have to come in and I have to edit the formula and take away that colon and enter a minus sign. Then when I click enter, it will show me that I have that Ryan sold 235 more food items than he did drink items. If I wanted to do that in a different way, I'm going to go ahead and delete that formula. I can come in, type the equal sign, the cell reference, minus sign, the second cell reference, and enter. Gives me the same number. Or I can type in equals sum. This is still an addition subtraction problem. Type in the cell reference, the minus sign, and the end cell reference, end the parentheses, and I get the same number. Again, I can take this fill handle and drag it down. So that is what I want you guys to be doing, is using those formulas. We can also format things in this area. We can make the word wrap, we can make the cells larger, the columns wider or smaller, but more of that design stuff will be happening later. Right now I want you to focus on learning how to enter formulas, functions, using that fill handle, and just playing with Excel in general.